Somewhere in your house, there's a document with your surname spelled wrong on it. Not by accident. Wrong permanently, officially, on every form you have ever filled. On your driver's license, on the letterbox. A letter is missing, or a letter has been added, or there's a mark that should be sitting above a consonant and there is nothing there at all. I want to spend 10 minutes on that name, what it meant before it left, and what happened to it on the way. Each. Each is a diminutive. That is all it is. It makes things small. It is the same suffix that turns a thing into a little version of that thing. And Croatian uses it constantly the way it uses every diminutive, which is to say, not really about size at all. In a surname, it means the young one, the son of, the one belonging to. So, take Kovač, which is a blacksmith, and then Kovačić, the blacksmith's boy. Somebody's neighbours in a village at some point in the 14th or 15th century needed to tell two men called Ivan apart. And one of them was the smith's son. So he became Ivan the smith's boy. And then his children were the smith's boy children. And by the time anybody was writing any of this down in a register, it had stopped being a description and it became a name. That is what almost every Croatian surname is. A description that stopped being a description. And then ović and ević. These look like different endings, but they're not. They're the same ending with something underneath it. Ov and ev are possessive, belonging to. And then each on top of that, the little one. So Petrović is Petar's plus little one, the son of Petar. Filipović, the son of Philip. Marković, the son of Marko. Pavlović, the son of Pavel. Two suffixes stacked on a first name, and you have half the phone book. And the choice between ović and ević is not random either. It follows the same hard and soft rule that runs through the whole language, the same one that separates ch from t. If the stem ends with a hard consonant, you get ović. If it ends with a soft consonant, you get ević. Croatian is consistent even in the places nobody expects it to be. So if ich is a small ending, the interesting part is always what comes before it. And it is one of the four things. Trades, Kovačić from the smith, Krznarić from Krznar, the furrier, Lončarić from the potter, Mlinarić from the miller, Ribarić from the fisherman. An entire medieval economy sitting in the list of surnames. And then, second thing is, when your last name comes from first names. Jurić from Juraj, George. Ivić and Ivanović from Ivan. Matić from Matija. Blažević from Blaž, Blaze. So these are just plain patronymics. The third possibility is that your last name comes from places and origins, where somebody came from, given to them by people who had not come from there. And finally, number 4 are nicknames. In all honesty, they were not always kind. So Crnić from Crn, black, somebody was dark. Malić, somebody was short. Grubić, somebody was rough. Zubić, well, you can work that one out yourself. 400 years later, a family in Perth is putting that word on a wedding invitation. The most common surname in this country is Horvat. Horvat is the older form of Hrvat, which means Croat. In parts of central Croatia, people still call themselves Horvati and the country Horvatska. It's not archaic there. It is just what the word sounds like when it comes out of that region. So the most common surname in Croatia literally means the Croatian one. And think about what that implies. A surname is a way of telling people apart. Nobody in a Croatian village needed to be identified as a Croat because everybody was. Which means the first man, called Horvat, was somewhere else. He had moved or had been moved, and his neighbors in a new place identified him by where he had come from. And it stuck, and it passed down, and now it's the most common name in the country he left. The most common surname in Croatia is a name given to an immigrant. And I would sit with that one for a minute if I were you. So the name left. Yours did, or it would not be spelled the way it's spelled now. And I want to correct something because no story most families tell each other is not true. And I think the true version matters more. And the story is, a clerk at Ellis Island could not spell it, so he wrote down whatever he heard. And that is how the family lost the name. It is a good story, and it is almost entirely a myth. Historians have gone through this carefully. The names at Ellis Island were copied from the ship's manifest, and the manifest was written at the port of departure in Europe by people who could spell Croatian names perfectly well. Inspectors were checking names against a list. They were not inventing them. So what actually happened? Well, your name was changed by your own family over years, on purpose, sometimes in one decision, and more often in 20 small ones. A form with no box for a diacritic, a school register, a foreman who kept getting it wrong until it was easier to just stop correcting him, a business card, a child coming home from school having been laughed at. The ch became ts, or a ch, or a plain s where a sh had been. Novaković became Novaković, and eventually became Novak. Sometimes the whole thing was translated outright. And Kovačić walked into an office one morning and came out as Smith. And I want to be clear about why that is heavier than the clerk's story and not lighter. Because in the clerk's story, something was done to your family. In the real story, somebody in your family looked at the situation and decided that their children would have an easier life without the marks over the letters. And they were probably right about the specific thing they were worried about. That is not carelessness. That is a parent doing arithmetic. But here's the thing that catches people, and it catches them badly. If your family dropped the diacritic, then somewhere along the line, the information went with it. And the ch and k are different letters. They're different sounds, and they make different names. So there are people watching this right now who do not know whether their surname has a ch in it or a k, which means they don't know how to say their own name. Not the anglicized version. That one is easy, and it's theirs, and it's also real. I mean the original version, the one their great-grandmother would have answered to. So here's what I'd do. Find out how it was spelled when it left. Note how it's spelled now. There will be a document somewhere, a parish record, a ship manifest, a baptism certificate, a birth certificate that somebody dug out during a citizenship application and then put back in a folder. And on it, your name will probably be sitting there with a mark above a letter that nobody in your family has written in 90 years. Now, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to go to an office and get the letterbox redone. But you could learn to say it properly, the way it was said in the place it came from, out loud, once, in your own kitchen. Somebody stopped saying it that way so that you would have an easier time. So you are allowed to start again.